ban Urgot. Therefore, we have our first two bans in chat. They were Alistar and Urgot, and now the first ban comes out from Atlanta. It is Ezreal. So not your typical ban, but I mean, Ezreal has been used a lot lately.
Well, I think the main thing is Balls has been using Ezreal very, very frequently and has been winning almost all of his lanes, doing a great job down bottom. The thing we've actually seen from Team Dynamic previously in this tournament is a Nunu MF bottom lane. And so perhaps they don't want their attack speed to be slowed by the Essence Flux of Ezreal. Maybe they don't think that's a particularly good matchup, or maybe they have a different lane altogether that they're going to be bringing to the table. But they did do a really stellar job, absolutely dominating every single one of their lanes last weekend as that Nunu and Misfortune combination.
Yep, and Nocturne being banned out, so want to take away that global ult. And Jace being banned out from the Rain Man. Rain Man has done very well playing Jace in the group stages, so they want to take that away from him.
Indeed, yeah, the Rain Man proving that Jace is viable in competitive play. We've actually saw him ban, the Jace ban coming from CLG Prime against him as well. On the other side, we do see a Morgana ban, which is not very surprising. Morgana, an incredibly great middle, but Mandatory Cloud also plays a very good Morgana, so I guess they just want to take it away from both the AP middles. Orianna, the next ban, and an interesting thing is, I was actually casting a European tournament, and every single game there was an Orianna pickup. So apparently people are really liking the changes, and mainly just how Command Protect and Command Shockwave can be used on an aggressive initiator like a Malphite. And so we do not see a Malphite ban, a Rumble ban, or a Karthus ban, which are also big picks. And the first pick looks to be Cassiopeia, and to counter that, mTw.NA seems to be going with Karthus, but Karthus tends to really lose that lane if Cassiopeia plays aggressive enough. So that could be an issue for mTw.NA. Obviously, since they picked up the Karthus, they feel like they can deal with it, but will they be able to handle the aggression coming down from Cassiopeia early? The first pickup for mTw.NA does turn out to be Nautilus, really great jungler, only champion with 4 types of CC, so he's just a crowd control bot, builds tanky, builds Frozen Heart, Aegis, and those GP10 items in the jungle, and just does an incredible job. And now we're waiting for the second and third pick from Team Dynamic.
Yep, Lux being shown, and now Hecarim being shown, so still have a while before they have to lock in, so we'll wait on that. But yeah, so I mean, I don't know if you mentioned this, but I don't know if sorry, I didn't notice if you mentioned, but Shen is the last ban, and really people have been trying to ban out those global ults, so like Karthus, Nocturne, Shen, and as you mentioned, Karthus wasn't banned out and has just been picked up, so I mean, they got recent nerfs, but still are very strong with their global presence.
And we do see a Yi pickup. That might be a placeholder there.
Or it could be Atlanta playing Yi. He has been known to play Yi before.
That is true. He actually plays a pretty stellar jungle Yi. I would be surprised if he does that with a new team, because of course, you know, one of the things with jungle Yi is he tends to go to lane, steal a lot of farm in the lanes, because he's essentially your hyper carry in the game. So I would. Yeah, I mean, that is certainly a possibility. We just don't see it in tournaments very much. And Pixel was actually talking about before the game, oh, well, now that we, you know, Eve and Twitch aren't necessarily bad champions, who are we going to use as a placeholder? But yeah, this certainly could be a jungle Yi coming down from Atlanta. Of course, these are best of 3 series over the first weekend. They were all best of 1, so everything was kind of front-loaded into that first game. And Team Dynamic might just be trying out something a little bit trickier here. But, I mean, generally you see Hecarim in the jungle as well. He can be played top lane, but his strongest position tends to be in that jungle role where he can run those GP10s and eventually just build straight tanky. From the other side, we do see Janna and a Trundle coming down.
Yeah, and it looks like the Rayman will be taking the Trundle up top. Of course, it could be, you know, Nautilus top and Trundle jungle as well, but, I mean, considering that it's the Rayman, it's most likely to be the Trundle going top.
Right. And Top Trundle hasn't really been popularized too much, and I believe the Rain Man's the only person that has played that competitively, but he does have a ton of sustain thanks to his passive. He trades really well with bruisers because his Q obviously steals the strength of the opposition, the attack damage of the opposition. So he does have some really stellar matchups, but I don't know who he feels like he's going against at this point in time.
Yep, Soraka being shown and Graves being shown. It's a really good lane matchup, or sorry, lane combination. And Soraka is often picked against Karthus because of that global heal, so I wouldn't be surprised if they lock that in right now.
I would not be surprised either. That is a very, very strong lane, especially when you're going against a Janna. It's a great lane just because there is no sustain on the other side, no inherent sustain on the other side, so you can spam all your skills, spam that buckshot, spam those smoke screens, and really just do a lot of damage and out-sustain the opposition, force them to farm underneath the turret.
So the Yi was indeed a placeholder. Apparently that was a Yorick pickup, so sadly we will not be seeing Yi. I was looking forward to seeing Atlanta on Yi again. But
I was excited about that too, and that was kind of, we actually talked about this last week as to who the new placeholders were going to be, and we mentioned Yi, and then we mentioned, oh, well, Atlanta has played Yi competitively, but they use Yi on this team, which is a little bit, a little bit confusing, and so now we see, the reason why the Trundle was picked was to counter the Yorick, and of course Trundle will get a little bit of healing anytime that those ghouls die. He of course gets 2 to 6% of the enemy's maximum health and his regeneration, so that is certainly a big bonus for him. But it's going to be primarily a farming lane. Trundle doesn't have a lot of kill potential on his own.
Was that the Hecarim that was the placeholder? Yeah, it was the Hecarim actually, not the Yi that was the placeholder.
Oh my goodness, they are wrecking us.
Wow. So it is going to be a Yi jungle, and instead of a Hecarim, it'll be a Yorick.
So using Hecarim as a placeholder, that is certainly new, but very, very exciting with a jungle Yi and a Yorick. And I could definitely see the synergy between a jungle Yi, like a hyper carry jungle Yi, and a Yorick, because if Yi gets farmed enough, goes that full offensive build, he's potentially going to get exploded really, really fast in those team fights. But if he gets that Omen of Death from Yorick, then he suddenly will duplicate his life and come back to life as soon as he gets exploded, which is certainly a threat for him. So down bottom we do see Ashe and Janna going against that Brave Soraka lineup. Ashe Janna, one of the best gank assist lanes. And what I mean by that is, if a jungler ever does come down to help kill someone in that lane, Janna can knock people up with Howling Gale, can slow them down with Zephyr, and of course Ashe has Frost Shot and Enchanted Crystal Arrow. So it's very easy to catch up to the opponent if they ever get in range of either of those combinations. But in general, they tend to lose the lane without ganks. Against the Soraka and Graves combination, just because there's a lot of tankiness and a lot of sustain down there. We also might be seeing Yorick top, apparently, or Nautilus top.
Yeah, I have to think. They still have a little bit of time before switching, so I think this. I have to think this is they're going to switch,
okay.
So they do switch. So it is going to be Nautilus in the jungle, and Nautilus ganking that bot lane is going to be terrifying because of all the CC that they're going to have. With Nautilus and with the Janna and the Ashe. So we'll keep an eye out for Nautilus ganking bot, and they'll have Karthus at level 6 using his ultimate to help out ganks as well, so we'll see how that turns out for them.
Yeah, the meta right now is generally gank top over and over and over and try to help that lane snowball, but between Trundle and Yorick, there's not a lot of, burst damage, a lot of kill potential for either of them, and, both people are great at their respective champions. They both have a lot of sustain inherently, Trundle and Yorick. So we might see, like you said, a lot more focus on the bottom lane who can really help out with a gank assist. And Nautilus, especially if he picks up early boots of mobility, can just run through the lane, catch up to people, use that depth charge ultimate, and then dredge line the people back just a little bit. So I am really interested in seeing if that is going to be the strategy, a very heavy ganking presence down bottom as opposed to the general presence up top. And, of course, Master Yi can be very good in a number of respects, but where he kind of lacks coming out of the jungle is he doesn't have any CC to add to a jungle gank. So really he's just doing a lot of damage. He can use Alpha Strike if someone tries to jump away with Flash or with a jumping ability. So he has that going for him, but in general, no extra CC. He's not going to be able to help the his own top lane or mid lane or bottom lane, slow the opposition down. So in particular in bottom, they have Smokescreen and they have a Silence, but those are the only forms of CC, and they're certainly not hard CC, and they're certainly not very potent in trying to catch up to other people.
Yep, so Atlanta could, I mean, a lot of times what we see at, not Atlanta, Master Yi's do is just try to farm up instead of ganking because his ganks aren't very powerful if they don't have CC in their lanes. But we'll see how Atlanta plays it. Atlanta, again, is a very good Yi, so I'm very excited to see this Atlanta Master Yi.
Absolutely, and I have to wonder, does he know that mTw.NA has some sort of weakness to Master Yi? Because of course he played with them for the longest of times. They're the team that actually came up with the Jungle Yi and really brought him back to the forefront in a couple of tournaments. But does he know that, his old team is actually going to have some issues with the Yi pick, with that hyper carry coming out of the jungle who can run incredibly fast. So yeah, it is going to be a very, very exciting game. But I really can't tell who has the advantage here. I do really like the amounts of crowd control that mTw.NA has for those late game team fights.
Yeah, and just going back to what you're talking about, I mean, if there's any team that knows Atlanta's Yi best, it is mTw.NA. So on the flip side, it could be that mTw.NA might be able to figure out this Atlanta Yi better than other teams might.
Yeah, I mean, that is certainly a possibility. It's just Yi, I mean, he's not going to be ganking too frequently, would be my guess. He just wants to farm up, and, how are they going to stop him from farming? Nautilus is a great jungler, he's actually a really great duelist, but he's not a great counter jungler. He doesn't have the speed to really get over to the enemy's jungle that much. So, is that going to really hold him back? He's, almost certainly going to get the, entirety of his own jungle over and over. Will he get to that critical point where he can just burst everyone down with a couple of strikes, proccing that double strike, and really getting a lot of attack damaging items?
Yep, so here we go into the game. We have gone through that 3-minute delay. And just looking at these skins now.
Yeah, and the skins, I don't know. I would have to say they slightly favor mTw.NA. Would be my call, but it is close. I really like Frost Queen. I really like that Karthus skin. Little Slugger Trundle, really cute. Really cute for a troll. But Headhunter Yi is also very, very cool, as is that Grave skin. So it looks like we were getting some pings. The common thing is to put a ward at the opposition's raid camp, just so you can keep track of their jungler. And we're seeing both teams kind of move towards that position of the enemy.
Yep, Zion Spartan coming out up here because a lot of teams like to go through the middle and into the bush. So checking for that. And mTw.NA is actually going to wait in this bush. Zion Spartan might get caught out a little bit. But does back up in time, and that ward does go down at the Wraiths. And over here as well, looks like TD puts down a ward of their own.
And especially against Nautilus. Now, a lot of times people say Nautilus doesn't have an incredibly quick clear time. He's not very slow either. But one thing you can potentially do is go ahead and counter jungle his race or even his red buff, because he's prone to start at blue, as is Master Yi. But with that ward there by the race, you can go ahead and steal the red buff and know whether or not you're going to be, jumped in upon at the red buff, and know whether or not you have to be worried about it. At the same time, since there is a counter ward on the other side, the same issue is there for team dynamic. If Yi does go to the opposition's red buff, they're going to know he's doing something tricky and is not going through his usual jungle routes.
Yep, Karthus is actually sticking around. Mandatory Cloud is going to try to steal this Wraith, and looks like he's going to be able to, and is just going to take that big Wraith and back off. Meanwhile, the Team Dynamic and mTw.NA are just starting their own jungles, going to the blue buff and helping their own junglers out to get a start on him.
Right, and we do see the blue side, Team Dynamic, picking up the double golems. Always a nice little bonus for the blue side. We'll have a little bit more experience coming into lane than does mTw.NA, which means they'll hit level 2 first, which means mTw.NA has to be a little bit careful because that Ignite is just going to be a little bit stronger. Graves will obviously have Quick Draw and Buckshot. And we do see a little bit of counter jungling coming in from Dadlana here.
Yep, and he's going to come around, going to go to this red buff and start it. So we see Nautilus getting these raids right here, and then we'll see it. Atlanta knows what's going on with Nautilus, so he's going to see Nautilus coming over. He's going to actually take that red buff and get out of there. So good job by Dadlana to pick up that red buff in the counter jungling effort.
Right, and he also left one little creep there, so that's not going to respawn anytime soon. He knew exactly how much time he had, and of course he saved his smite from the blue buff, so he could use that on the red buff there. And so he has had a pretty successful counter jungling. He does have that red buff, but he is actually a level down behind Don't Match Me at the moment.
And he's still sticking around in this jungle. He's going to run into Nautilus and is going to fight with him a little bit, and is going to take him down to about half health. Oh, doing a lot of damage using that double strike, but Nautilus is going to get away with that dredge line, so not much besides that.
Yeah, not too much besides that. Up in the top lane, 14 CS to 5. So far, Rainman had to be a little bit careful because he knew Yi was in his upper part of his jungle, which meant he had to miss out on some CS. We'll see if he's going to be able to catch back up here anytime soon.
Yep, and Atlanta actually is keeping up that counter jungling, just going right back in and taking the big Wraith before getting out of there.
Right, and he did kind of an unusual thing. He just ran across middle, so he essentially showed the opposition exactly where he was going to, but he doesn't care too much because he knows that Nautilus was relatively low, was going to have to head back, and now he can just clear out his jungle in peace. So he's doing a really great job so far, putting pressure on the opposition, making them worry. And yeah, just farming on up, and is going to have secure his second red buff of the game up here. We did see that Zion Spartan essentially ran out of mana, just spamming down all of his ghouls over and over, and that's given Rainman the chance to catch up and farm. Meanwhile, bottom lane, about 9 in favor of Zig on Graves, and that's to be expected as well. They do have a little bit of advantage, especially picking up those double golems early, and then having the superior sustain lane as well.
Yep, Zion Spartan putting that ward just in time as Don't Match Me came over, but looks like he's going to get a little bit caught. That pillar goes down, but the dredge light misses, so he's going to be able to get back in time. Don't Match Me is sticking around, and Zion Spartan doesn't know it because he doesn't have a ward in this bush, so he doesn't have vision of the bush, but looks like Don't Match Me is being forced to get back as York is playing far too safely.
Yeah, down bottom, Balls barely getting away, does in fact survive, but loses the Ignite. And up top we see Zion Spartan is able to put ghouls down in that brush, so knows that Don't Match Me was hanging out there. So Don't Match Me stuck around for a while, but Zion Spartan doing a really good job checking the brush, making sure that he wasn't being camped any further.
Yep, and down at bot, as you mentioned, the level 2 helping Zig out a lot. So he was able to be really aggressive from level 2 when Buff and Cutie and Balls were still level 1, so that allowed him to be really aggressive and just basically snowball that from that and keep up the pressure. Over here we see Paradoxical getting ganked by Don't Match Me. The dredge lane goes out, does catch him, is going to try to get back and does. So looks like Paradoxical is doing fine, putting out a little damage as mTw.NA retreats from that. And Yi, we saw, was in this jungle, took that big wolf, and is continuing this counter jungling against the Nautilus.
Yeah, doing a great job, but isn't really getting a huge advantage insofar as experience goes. He is just a tiny bit ahead of Don't Match Me rather, and Don't Match Me has gone in for a couple extra gank attempts. They haven't been fruitful though, and that's in large part because top lane and mid lane aren't the greatest gank assisters, especially Karthus in that previous gank didn't really have enough mana to follow up on the dredge line that was landed on Cassiopeia, on Paradoxical there. Yep. So we do see bottom lane, like Zig is continuing to do well in his lane, 49 CS to 35 from Ashe, but Ashe does have that extra Doran's Blade, did have the chance to go back and buy, and so Zig of course is down that one item, doesn't probably want to engage in a fight anytime soon. Can certainly try to poke Balls down, but if not for the poke, then he's really at a disadvantage in those very brief one-on-ones because of that Doran's Blade.
Yeah, so I mean, the going back could make you lose some CS, but at the same time could get you items to help you develop more of an advantage early on. And it looks like Balls is doing pretty well right now in terms of getting back into it because they aren't being harassed down as much as they were before.
Oh wow, so there was some aggression top lane, Zion Spartan versus Rainman. Zion Spartan does have his Tear of the Goddess now, Rainman building into a quick Wriggles. But we saw there was a trade and Zion Spartan, decided to, go ahead and go all in on Rainman, and Rainman's like, oh, I'm going to attack these ghouls. But then he realized, oh, I actually have to put pressure on Zion Spartan. So his strategy throughout the game has been to attack the ghouls, make sure they don't do too much consistent damage overall. And, up to this point, I was really impressed with the Rainman because everyone is seemingly having issues with Zion Spartan's York up top. No one has really been able to counter him.
I just see Atlanta, coming in and going to catch Rayman trying to go for these golems, and they're going to be fighting a little bit. Rayman is going to get away, and Atlanta actually, after putting some damage on those small golems, decides to back off because he is too low. But could have turned out badly for the Rayman, but he is fine. He's going to attack these small golems with Don't Mash Me.
Right, and the Rainman forced to use his ultimate on Yi there, and of course he wants to kill or be close to those big golems when they're killed, so it procs his Decompose passive, so he heals up a little bit. So he is pretty healthy now, but he's running out of mana, whereas Zion Spartan doing a good job, and now Zion Spartan has the opportunity to kind of freeze the lane up here, which could be a big issue for the Rainman if they can't go toe-to-toe with Zion Spartan. And, if the last engagement was any indication, it looked like Rainman was having a little bit of problem of it. Will that turn around when he gets his Wriggles Lantern? I think it very well might, but he does not have that quite yet.
Yep, and Zion Spartan does have that tier again, so he is going to not have as many mana problems. Of course, a tier doesn't automatically mean you have no mana problems anymore, but it does give you a lot of mana and does give you mana regen, so it should help him spam those goals even more.
Yeah, it should. And we see Cassiopeia trying to be very aggressive against Mandatory Cloud, but Mandatory Cloud doing a really good job of just farming from a really long distance, and actually is 4 CS up, so that's not a huge number, but is able to at least keep up in farm so far, and really doing a good job of counter-harassing Cassiopeia in middle. We do see bottom lane going back. Looks like it is going to be a Doran's Blade and Pickaxe picked up for Graves. And so now when they return to lane, they'll actually have a pretty big advantage against that Ashe-Janna combination if they don't decide to go back in the meantime. Generally, when the opposition goes back, you try to push the lane really, really fast and then head back yourself, try to make them lose some CS on the tower, and then go ahead and make sure you buy so you're even with the opposition insofar as items go. So we are going to see the bottom lane head back as well. In the jungle, 48 CS from Yi to 51 of Nautilus, and Nautilus is also running those GP10, so he's going to be making passive money throughout the game, whereas Yi did pick up the Wriggles Lantern, which is going to speed up his jungling certainly, and will help him take the objectives a little bit faster, but overall he's kind of losing out on the gold advantage over time because he hasn't picked up those GP10 items.
Yep, so, yeah, again, the Wriggles Lantern should help for the buffs and to clear jungle faster, but it looks like we have Karthus and Don't Mash coming in. Oh, T-Pixel getting caught out by the arrow, and he is going to get CC'd down so hard, but he has heals himself. Is he going to be able to be taken down? Ashe does use that volley and picks up that kill for first blood. So, great move by mTw.NA to pick up that first blood. And now they're just going to move back towards mid. They do go for this dragon. They are starting the dragon. Cassiopeia is in the area. They see her with that ward. Yi is also in the area. But looks like they are hesitant to go back in. They are split up, but Janna is there as well. Now Paradoxo is going to come in, and they are going to... Yi does go in and get that steal. Cassiopeia with great ultimate picks up Karthus kill, and Balls is now in a lot of trouble. Atlanta goes down, but Cassiopeia picks up yet another kill, and now Muffin Cutie is going to go down to Cassiopeia with the triple kill.
Wow. That was amazing. First of all, a great steal from Atlanta, and then a 3v4, and they end up taking it 4 for 1. That is an incredible, incredible fight. Yi already showing how much damage he can do, and of course, once he kills someone, his cooldowns do refresh. So we saw, a couple consecutive alpha strikes there, and now we see, Team Dynamic kind of pushing down on this mid lane as well as Zion Spartan is down there. Did come up from the top, wanted to help his team, get in on that dragon attempt. Didn't really show up in time, but now is being able to put a lot of damage out on this turret. Will they go ahead and take it? Of course, he can use his ghouls to tank the turret, and they do go, in fact, and take it. So now they have almost a 4,000 gold lead already, just 12 minutes in, and right after giving out first blood, they then turn around and pick up 4 kills of their own, only losing 1 kill and picking up that dragon and a middle turret. So a really, really stellar job from a Team Dynamic there. And then previously it was a really great job by mTw.NA for catching Pixel out, but they'd everyone had blown their summoners, they blew their ultimates, trying just to kill that singular Soraka, and when it comes down to it, wasting all of that on a support champion may not be the best idea, because we did see, in the end, obviously, that entire fight went Team Dynamic's way.
Yep, and we also saw the Rain Man trying to push top a little bit as he was not in the fight, and since he was alone, he tried to push top, but he didn't manage to get that much damage on the turret before having to get back, so definitely turned out very well in TD's favor. Zig being a little bit aggressive here, and is trading a lot with Balls. And using that ultimate, the Ash Arrow comes out, Zig dropping very low, and Balls is really low as well, so they both back off. Muffin Cutie is still being very aggressive, trying to pick up that kill on Zig, but he's going to have to be careful, and Karthus coming down now, and is going to flash over. Pixel is going to get caught using that heal on himself, but is going to drop really low and fall to the Karthus.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I mentioned before the game. So much great gank assist, so people can just walk up behind, and because the enemy is being constantly slowed, constantly knocked up. It's really hard to get away from any sort of aggression down that bottom lane. Even if they're not the strongest lane down there, they do help out any sort of
Paradoxo comes down bot to try to pick up a kill on Muffin Cutie, and actually does manage it despite not having the best ultimate. And now going on Balls, Atlanta going in, picking up that kill. Mandatory Cloud is now in trouble. Zig is here as well. Yi getting that double kill. Don't Mash Me has come over. He's going to try to pick up these kills. Cassiopeia was low, and Atlanta is very low as well, and he's going to try to juke around and actually is going to get away with that ultimate. So, actually, looks like Mash Me is in chase using that dredge line. Is he going to be able to? Nope, he does not. He backs off. And meanwhile, while all that was happening, the tower down bot went down, allowing Atlanta to escape without worrying about that turret.
Yeah, so really great thing that the tower was no longer there.
Up at top, we see a lot of aggression. Pilla goes out to help disengage. The ult came out from York, but is not going to be able to get that kill on the Rain Man, so just going to farm up a little bit more now.
Right, and actually those trades looked like they're going in favor of the Rain Man up top. Of course, he does have Rails Lantern and Ninja Tabi now, as compared to the Mana Mune from Yorick. So he was winning those trades until the ultimate came out from Zion Spartan, and Rain Man apparently used his ultimate earlier, so he didn't have that in his back pocket to be able to use. So overall, 112 farm up top, 298 from the Rain Man. Really not too big a difference up there. Rain Man not falling too far behind, but how much is Rain Man and Trundle really going to be able to bring to late game team fights?
Yep, and actually Atlanta going for some counter juggling, and Pillar goes out from the Rain Man. They're going to try to go on Atlanta. Atlanta is running away as fast as they can. Flash comes out from Don't Mash Me, still trying to run away. The ultimate comes out from Karthus, but the heal from Soraka allows Atlanta to stay alive. The arrow coming through is going to miss everything.
Right, so great job escaping there from Atlanta. Didn't use his ultimate until he, really had to, and of course that helped to burn the flash from Rain Man, so that was probably his strategy there. Let's try to get as many summoners as I can from the opposition, and then I will go ahead and waste my Highlander, but not only is that an interesting thing, every time I see Atlanta play Yeet, he doesn't level up Meditate until really, really late on in the game. He has 5 points in Alpha Strike, 4 in his what is it there? The Wuju style, which is his E, which helps increase his damage. But he doesn't pick up 1 point in Meditate. And the last time I remember witnessing it, it was actually against a Karthus as well. And I was like, oh man, it really seems like Meditate would help a lot, because even at level 1, it's going to give you 100 armor and magic resistance and heal you a little bit. So it really helps against Karthus ultimates, because you see when they are coming down, and you can really do a great job of limiting that damage. But Atlanta going full man mode, picking up all the offensive skill sets first before picking up any points in Meditate.
Yep, some aggression up top. It looks like Zion Spartan is getting the better of those, did get the better of that trade, and Trundle is forced to go back.
Yeah, and I don't know at what point here, Trundle's going to be able to turn the tides. He is able to farm, but he's slowly falling behind now, 20 CS behind, and he's been losing these last couple of trades. So obviously he knew that the York was the pick. They discussed that in chat. We weren't privy to that information as casters because we were not in the chat. but they knew, and they picked the Trundle in specific to counter Yorick, and so he's doing an okay job, but he's actually had more attention from ganks up top, has Trundle.
Oh, over here we see Muffin Cutie getting caught out by Paradoxical. It's going to take a lot of damage, but the Oljana ult comes out to help save herself, and that does work well. So Paradoxical just waiting for Janna to go put that ward in there, and tried to pick up the kill. Doesn't succeed, but they do know that the ward is there, so the pink ward does go down on Baron, and they do take out that ward.
Yeah, and Team Dynamic has a particularly good Baroning team. Of course, Master Yi going to be able to do a lot of damage to it. Cassiopeia also able to do a lot of damage to Baron, as is, of course, Graves, and Yorick can help tank the Baron with his ghouls, so that is a really great advantage for that. But instead they go ahead and take down that dragon, and now they're 4,000 gold in the lead. They actually haven't extended their gold margin too much, but every one of their lanes seems to be doing pretty well. 30 CS ahead bottom lane, 20 top lane, and now they're just going to go ahead and push down middle, it seems.
Yeah, and mTw.NA isn't in position, so they're going to have to get back quickly, or else this tower is going to go down without any contest at all. And it does look like it's going to go down. And Don't Mash Me takes a little bit of damage from Spartan, but looks like Team Dynamic is going to back off for now. They go ahead and are trying to steal this blue buff, are going to take it. But Paradoxical is a little bit caught out, does use that ultimate on Mandatory Cloud, but he's facing the other way. Atlanta gets caught with that Ash Arrow, and Mandatory Cloud does die in the middle of everything. So Paradoxical is split off from the rest of the team. The ultimate comes out from Karthus, is going to do a lot of damage, but Paradoxical does fall, and now we have Don't Mash Me falling as well as Ash. So we have Muffin Cutie being chased down. Spartan had used that ultimate on himself and is out now. He's going to dive this turret and is going to try to get that kill. Does get that kill. Rayman is going to try to do something, but silence from Soraka discourages him, and Spartan gets out fine.
Yeah, so a 4-for-1 there. Mandatory Cloud, kind of an unusual strategy, was just rushing in there. Certainly was attempting to suicide in the middle of the enemy team, but he actually did not get far enough deep to actually be effective, have his Defile hurting people. So then he used his ultimate, but it just wasn't quite enough. Completely losing him from the battle and only having his ultimate to do damage just wasn't worth it. It just seemed like mTw.NA wasn't quick enough to, get there, wasn't quick enough to respond. And I understand from an AP carry mid-position, you're like, oh, I will do anything to protect my blue buff. So he was really excited about that fight, but it doesn't seem like the rest of the team was very excited.
Yeah, and really, after the Karthus died and after his passive ended, actually the fight going down, Paradoxical getting exhausted, now Atlanta's in the middle of everything, and Mandatory Cloud getting taken down very fast. Now Atlanta runs out of that little Defile and is going to try to get away, but a lot of CC being put down. Spartan actually falls, and now Paradoxical is trying to get away using that flash preemptively, and actually gets Ash Arrowed, and now he is in a lot of trouble. Actually Rayman taking him down after a great Ash Arrow, and Pixel going over and trying to take out that ward, does take it out, but is that at the cost of an Oracle, is using that flash. Atlanta also being caught out. Pillar does go down, and now Rayman is going to flank them. Exhaust goes down on Rayman. Pixel taking a lot of damage using those heals, but he does fall to the Rayman. Rayman doing a very good job actually getting that kill, but Mashmi is very low, and Atlanta does go in. Is he going to be able to pick up a kill? He does not, but Graves does pick up that final kill on Janna, so 1-for-1 trade there.
Yeah, Yi just jumping on in there, but of course he hadn't bought after the last team fight, so we see actually a really good job. I thought Mandatory Cloud was not necessarily on tilt, but kind of, really being a little bit too aggressive, seeing as how they lost all their team fights, but they got over to that, the opposing blue buff and really did a good job of, taking a fight for their own.
Yep, Spartan getting a little bit caught by the pillar and the wall, but is fine, is going to be able to heal that up just fine, so he is able to get back. But yeah, as you said, turned out pretty well for mTw.NA despite what seemed like an over-aggressive move at first.
Yeah, we're going to see perhaps a Baron attempt here. I'm sure they saw Don't Mash Me show himself top lane with no life, and Ash at the same time was bottom lane, and of course they know that they cleared out all the minions there, or all the wards there rather, so Muffin Cutie is going to come in and drop a ward, but they are really excited about perhaps taking this. I don't know how much time they feel like they have. They do decide to back off in the end. weren't completely convinced that Mashmi wasn't going to be around in time to steal it, so they do back off. But at any given point, they can take this Baron in about 10 seconds. So if there's any time where mTw.NA is out of position like they were in that case, it could mean a lost Baron. And we do see, the Baron dance ensuing now, lots of wards being dropped in and around Baron.
Yep, Paradoxical putting out some good harass, actually, forcing Janna to get back a little bit, and yeah, the wards being put down, so they have a vision of the Baron. Both teams have vision of Barons, so we're gonna see them trying to clear out each other's wards right now. And Paradoxical still sticking around in the area, trying to put a little bit of damage and a little bit of harass, so to maybe force them back or just to put damage before a possible fight. But it looks like mTw.NA is pushing mid, and they aren't going to be able to do anything about it. Paradoxical almost getting caught by that dredge line, does manage to get back in time. That mid tower is going to go down though, so Team Dynamic gives up that tower. Rainman is taking some damage and is going to get caught out a little bit, but is fine right now. Wall goes down, Ash Arrow comes out, Paradoxical does get ulted by Yorick, so he's going to come back even if he dies. Oh, Karthus goes down very quickly, but is in a great position, so he's cutting out a lot of damage, but Atlanta is going to be able to do a lot, is going to go ahead and clean that up, is going to use that Highlander to try to catch up to this Rainman, and is he going to catch up to him? The chase is on, using that ground, using that pillar, and flashes over and picks up that kill. A great job, and now this is going to turn into a Baron for Team Dynamic.
Yeah, a really great job from Paradoxical, being able to land that Petrifying Gaze right before that Enchanted Crystal Arrow came in. So mTw.NA, able to, initiate that fight like they wanted to, get that arrow off, get that depth charge in a good area, get Karthus into, a small enclosed area so that when he died, he was still going to be doing a lot of damage. But despite all the things that went their way, that Yorick ultimate on Cassiopeia was so devastating that, Cassiopeia essentially wasn't even running away. She was just like, okay, I'm just going to stand here, I'm going to wait until I die, do as much damage, and then I'm just going to keep on chasing thereafter. And that strategy worked out incredibly well from them. And that's the advantage that Yorick gives you late game. Are you going to, perhaps use your ultimate on an AD carry? Or do you have a really consistent damage AP carry that you can give that ultimate to and help them survive just that little bit longer to finish off a team fight? So at this point, TD, Team Dynamic, really great lead. 7 kills, almost 9,000 gold, picked up yet another dragon and has that Baron buff, and they could probably just push down on turrets at their leisure. Obviously, top turret would make the most sense. It's really easy to get those outer turrets, and it's very dangerous for mTw.NA to defend them.
Yep, Rainman right now is top by himself, just trying to clear these minions. But yeah, I mean, it would make sense for them to go top, but right now they're just kind of taking buffs, clearing some waves, and not really grouping up as of yet, but they will likely group up soon to push. Yi is actually going towards bot, so they're still very split up at the moment.
Yeah, and we actually saw Yi going bottom just a little bit ago to, take some of that farm. And actually, he has 148 farm compared to the 145 from Cassiopeia. So Cassiopeia falling a little bit behind Karthus with 200. But, of course, Karthus is 1 and 5, whereas Cassiopeia is 8 and 4. So a little bit more roaming, a little bit more zoning the opposition out, and doing a good job with that. While Yi is now, I think their strategy here is let Yi get most of this farm so that he can get his Infinity Edge. He is working towards that. And then once he gets his Infinity Edge, he'll be just doing that much more damage. Obviously, he's going to scale just about as hard as actually harder than a ranged AD carry. And we do see, this bottom turret being taken, so they're not going after the top turret. They saw the Rainman still hanging out in that top lane, and they go ahead and take the bottom turret for free. Now they can roam around and select their next turret. Obviously, they can try to push down on these inhibitor turrets, but it's just a little bit more dangerous for them. Those turrets will be doing a little bit more damage. Of course, mTw.NA has their base to retreat to, so generally we see the professional teams going out and taking all the turrets that are quote-unquote free, which would be the outer turrets, and right now the only ones left are in that top lane.
Yep, we saw Atlanta actually go towards mid to put a little bit of damage on this turn. Actually managed to put down about a third of the health. So, doing a good job of pushing that turret. He's going to actually come around and go for this. Red buff is probably going to be able to take this really quickly. So push down one turret. Now they're gonna try to steal some buffs, and then before maybe pushing again. But it looks like Soraka went back and Yorick went back, and Graves is also back trying to take his own red. So I mean, after one push, it was just a little bit of backup. We saw Atlanta still continuing to push. He a great pusher and is the quintessential backdoor champion. So we'll see if they try to utilize that strategy in the future.
Right, well, it looks like, yeah, he does have enough to go back and buy that Infinity Edge. So now he has Phantom Dancer Infinity Edge. Graves has the same. And we did see Soraka go back, but picked up that Ceralia's Reverie. So essentially everyone was picking up really big ticket items. It makes sense to go back. If you have a lot of money in the bank, you want to spend it because that's the advantage you've been given over time. If you're 3,000, if you're 4,000 gold up, but you are saving 2,000 gold and people on your team overall are saving a lot of that gold and not spending it, then suddenly your advantage is actually not even there. And at this point, Team Dynamic has to be a little bit careful. They don't want to be too split out, and we've been seeing Paradoxical going solo a lot, kind of harassing down the enemy, but an Enchanted Crystal Arrow can come in and really isolate one of the members. They have to be careful that they don't get caught out, because even though they're significantly ahead at this point, they certainly don't want to fight a 5v4.
Yep, and Paradoxical actually a little bit of a skirmish with Don't Mash Me, but turned out without any of them, engaging. So it looks like they're gonna group up near mid. Paradox actually is gonna choose. They are targeting that top turret now. Ping goes down on it. Yorick is pushing right now, and the rest of Team Dynamic is heading that way. So they're gonna go for that top turret.
It certainly makes sense. It is, the last of the turrets that are not at the base turrets. We do see Rain Man running through the forest, so not an incredibly safe way to go. He does use that Pillar of Filth, but he uses it on the wrong brush. So Team Dynamic just hiding in the other brush. Do not think they've been spotted out at this point in time. And now they're going to move back into the brush that was just, Pillar of Filth.
Yep, and actually Mash Me getting a little bit of damage put on him by Team Dynamic, but now it looks like Team Dynamic is going to try to move towards this top turret. Actually coming around the back, and the Pillar of Filth actually doing a great job of preventing them from coming in. So, prevented them from engaging behind this turret. So we'll see them try to poke this down. The wall goes out. Actually, Pixel getting caught out, and the wall goes out. And now the great Cassiopeia ult. Rayman is very low, is forced to go back, and Muffin Cutie pushes that reset button. The arrow comes out, catches Pixel in the back, and is stunned, but nothing much happening there. Mandatory Cloud goes in and dies, but it is going to be in a place where he can't do much damage. He's forced to just use that ultimate. Rayman is going in trying to take out Paradoxical. Is doing a very good job, and does fall though. The ultimate comes out from Nautilus, going on Atlanta. Looks like Zig is trying to get out Muffin Cutie. Down Spartan did use the ultimate, but nobody died. So everybody's very low, but looks like Team Dynamic came out ahead in the end, and they're going to try to take down this turret. They are going to, with the help of the Soraka heal. So turret and a couple kills for Team Dynamic in that exchange.
Right, they did pick up those 2 kills, 2 no deaths, and that was very surprising. It was a close fight all the way throughout. Pixel was the brunt of all the damage in the initial fight. Did get dredgelined, eventually got Enchanted Crystal Arrowed, and took a lot of that damage, but the damage wasn't consistent enough to take down anyone on Team Dynamic, because of course they have that Soraka healing, used the Wish, used that Astral Blessing, kept everyone alive and healthy, so really great job on their part. And I feel like that the Nautilus ultimate, that depth charge, really came down pretty late, and I don't believe it was on cooldown, but the fight was essentially over by the time it came out, and of course it's a great, potential CC ability, so I was surprised that it did come out so late. Perhaps could have changed the fight had it been a little bit earlier there. Now Baron is back up. Team Dynamic looks like they're going to rush it, and this will be very fast.
Yep, and they're just going to try to do it as fast as possible. Hawkshot does let them know that what they're doing, but I mean, again, as you said, very fast Baron, and now they have Baron once again, as well as a 13,000 gold lead.
Right, and that took them 7 seconds. I was looking at the timer, 31:09 to 31:16, so 7 seconds to kill that Baron. That's because they have a great Baroning team, on the one hand, and two, it's actually 30 minutes in, so a lot of teams can do it relatively fast. Mashi looks like he's going to build up a Guardian Angel, but so much damage right now, so much damage coming down from that Yi.
Yep, and now they're just trying to get this turret. Zandspartan actually caught a little bit by that Pillar of Filth, but is very tanky right now, so it is, doesn't really mind that damage so much.
No, certainly not. And I actually remember, I think it was you and I casting the last time we were watching Zandspartan play, and one thing he did last week is he actually went 1-on-4 and picked up a quadra kill last weekend. But the other thing is he picked up a Ruby Health Crystal, and we're like, oh, that'll probably be a Spirit Visage, but instead he actually built a Shrelia's Reverie with it. But we do see them just rushing down this turret.
Yeah, and Atlanta actually going in there, and now they're going to try to get Rayman. Rayman does fall to the poison, and as does Karthus. So Karthus is going to use that ultimate, but it isn't going to do anything. The inhibitor goes down, and now they're going to try to push even further. They are going to do a lot of damage to this Nexus turret. Nautilus does go in, but he gets ulted by Cassiopeia and is forced to try to get away. He does survive though. Actually, no, he does not. As Yi comes in and picks up that double kill, it looks like Team Dynamic is going to take this first game.
Absolutely. That Alpha Strike picking up Nautilus, and then one more swing at Ash, doing 505 damage. So damaging, that Yi. And we actually saw him initiate earlier, and he went really low, and then Karthus used his ultimate, but he was actually meditating. Does, of course, have that up to 5, as he is maxable now. So he was meditating, and he essentially went from a, 20% life to full over the course of that one meditate, and blocked a ton of that damage from Karthus. So we saw how great Yi can be in the jungle, and generally considered kind of a troll pick, perhaps, the new placeholder, but not if Dadlanta has anything to say about it. He really likes that Yi and really did a stellar job all throughout that game.
Yep, so this is again a best of 3. Team Dynamic has taken the first game, so we'll have a second game up for you soon. And we're going to get everybody in the